All right, and welcome everyone to A Total You. This is our podcast. We're so excited about kicking off our Black Love and Faith interview series. We're excited about having Dr. Bennie Harris, who is the chancellor, the fifth chancellor at the University of South Carolina Upstate, where he fulfills his purpose to inspire and develop young people to change the world. He believes higher education offers opportunities for people to experience possibilities and achieve their greatest aspiration. Along with him is his lovely wife, First Lady Frankie Harris, who is his college sweetheart. We are so excited by having them with us because they have three amazing adult children as well. We'll get into that. But we want to kick off by saying welcome to Dr. Harris and First Lady Harris. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Well,
me.
let's get started and have a conversation about our topics, Black love and faith. And Dr. Harris, you, first of all, as I read your bio, just a prolific, profound bio, how you have been such an instrumental leader in higher education. You have been from East Coast to West Coast to the South, and now you're here in the Southern area there in South Carolina. Tell us how your faith really took you through all those different moves and transition through just first of all your career.
Well, actually, thank you very much, Dr. Campbell. And it's an honor to be on your show and be on this podcast to share some insight as to the questions in Black love. I think it's a really important topic. I grew up in the Delta, Mississippi, which is on a farm. And I grew up with both parents, my dad and my mom, both together. There were eight of us. And so as a result of that experience, it was clear to my parents and to my family that education was part of the great equalizer for civil rights, right? When you grow up in the Delta, Mississippi, the place where it's extremely discriminatory, blacks and white. I lived in a school I went to school right after integration, and so, but still, all the white students left, and when they
Mhm.
left, they started these academies around Mississippi. So the public schools were left with still substandard educational things. However, the mentors and the people in my church, particularly my pastor, Dr. Harvey Jackson, they poured a lot into young people.
Yeah.
Uh, they showed us what was possible. So we didn't see any limitations to what was possible. We had many teachers at the church. We had folks who had other professional careers, most of them educators, but they pushed us. And so when I decided that I wanted to be an engineer, I was encouraged by my church, my family, my high school teachers, etc. Um, so I really never saw Mississippi or the Delta Mississippi as a place where I will ultimately land because I knew the opportunities there were not there.
Okay.
So I don't know how I was okay with leaving Mississippi, going to the state of Washington, sight unseen, but I was.
Right.
There was never any fear about leaving home.
Okay.
Um, and then Frankie joined me there, and then but Frankie and I really had come to a place which is going to be interesting to talk about. After me being in Washington State for 2 years, she and I got married. Um, we started really trying to find and submit what our passions are.
Okay.
And for me, my passion, I thought was engineering, but I never thought my passion was engineering. My passion really was education, but I went engineering because a black male or a black kid who was smart in math and science, engineering or medicine was where we were pushed during that time.
Right. And so tell us, you met, I understand you, it says here that Frankie is your college sweetheart. So tell us a little bit. Did y'all meet in the dorm? You meet on the athletic field? You met in the gym? Or did you meet in the student union? How did that meeting take place?
Well,
How did you meet her?
I believe in vision. So God gave Frankie a vision.
Okay. I love it.
I think she can tell the story better.
Tell us
But I
the
was a
story.
senior
Okay.
in college. I had co-op for a year, so it took me I think it was about 5.5 years to graduate.
Okay.
Because in Mississippi State, your co-op semester, go to school semester, those type of things. So I actually had co-op and intern for about a year and a half. Frankie came to Mississippi State after having been at Tougaloo College working on her master's student.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna let her can I let her tell the story
Yeah, I want to
of
hear her tell
how
the
she and I
story.
met?
She could pick up the baton from there. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I had entered Mississippi State University, and while working on my first master's,
Okay.
I decided maybe I would pick up an MRS degree
Okay. MRS degree. Okay.
along with my master's.
Okay.
And somehow Benny and I met in the engineering building.
So you
And
met an engineer building. When he walks by, you walk by, you look, or he look. How'd that go?
I decided to take a tour one day
Take a
to
tour.
make
Tell us about
sure.
your tour.
I just wanted to make sure he noticed me. Coming from an HBCU, we always had the protocol of dressing and being, a certain way and fashionable. And so
Okay. Okay.
one Friday, I decided to walk the engineering building, and then someone introduced us, and it went from there. But from the moment I really met him,
Uh huh.
I said, "This is going to be my husband."
Wow. Now you met him and you. Oh my! I think you're right, Dr. Harris. She had a vision. She had a vision. She said, "This is going to be my husband." So when you met him, you recognized that was going to be your husband. Tell us the qualities that he had that drew you to even make that that statement. What were some of the qualities that caused you to fall
Yeah.
in love with Dr. Harris?
Well, he was very ambitious. He had a tough nature. He was very involved in student government, very involved in his fraternity, and he was trying to balance it all. But he really, he had time, but he really didn't have time. So he found a way to, his fraternity had this pageant.
He was in a
For,
fraternity.
The Bold and Beautiful pageant.
the Bold and Beautiful pageant.
A
Okay.
male female extravaganza.
Okay.
And he wanted to make sure it was executed uh, top notch. So he asked me to coordinate it.
Uh
So
oh.
that's
Uh
how we
oh.
got a chance
Oh, he
to,
got you into the coordination of it.
yes, yes.
Yes.
And we got a chance to work together. And so I had an opportunity to work with him and see him. And engineering is very, very demanding. And also my graduate program was demanding.
Yeah.
So
So you fell
I,
in love with the fact that he was ambitious and he had a lot going on and very involved into the university there,
and
and,
he had a lot of potential.
and had a lot of
And I knew
potential.
what we probably could do together. I mean, so
I
See, the
like
Dr.
that.
Campbell, I think what's interesting, Frankie went to an HBCU and I went to a PWI. And so
Okay.
at PWI, we didn't dress up. At
Oh,
HBCUs, they dressed up every day, you
yes.
know. And so she would dress up, had matching uh, uh, jewelry, matching shoes, and had the
Nice.
silk thing going on. Uh, but we jest at this, but I think it's really important that both Frank and I come from traditional families, so
Okay.
marriage was something that we both aspired to do.
Okay.
Um, but I think it's important that people know what they want and what they don't want. And I
Okay.
think
Let's talk about
I
that a
give her a
little
lot
bit.
of credit for at least knowing what she wanted. And and while I was young and still trying to figure it out, um, she was very clear about what she saw in her future.
Okay.
And I think just charting that out, making that decision that I want someone who's ambitious, who has aspirations. I want someone who can love me, someone who want to have children, and someone where I can be a wife and pour my love and my gifts into. Um, I think a lot of women are more mature than men at that time to kind of
Right.
see that, especially after having gone through undergraduate. And she said, "Okay, you know what? This didn't happen for me in undergraduate. Let me go to grad school and figure
Right.
out if I can find the man that God has for me."
So one of the things you had talked about, and I want to touch on that for both of you guys to help our audience out, is to help people understand it's important that they know what they want. Frankie, help us understand if you knew what you wanted, did you pray about that? Did you seek God about what you wanted? Do you feel like it was a something that God laid on your heart that this is to be the best type of person for me as I grow and develop and mature as a young person as well? So talk to us a little bit about sharing with the audience how important that they have clarity to know exactly what they want.
I think it's very important in order to know what you want,
Okay.
you have to really know what you don't
Okay, let's
want.
talk up a little bit louder for me.
In order to know what you want,
There you go.
you have to know what you don't want.
Oh, that's good.
The
Okay.
only way you're gonna know what you don't want is through experience, being on a dating journey, and it's not about always a list because
Okay.
there's never a perfect list.
Okay.
Okay, you can balance um, a lot of potential. You can balance a lot of good vibe, energy, and
Mm,
foresee the future.
okay.
But until those life lessons about what you don't want
Mm.
and knowing your worth, then you know what you want. And
So
it's
you
not a
mentioned, go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish that thought.
no, but it's not a list. Most people's like, oh, they got to do this, this, that, and that, and that. And I don't think anybody can complete a checklist. And
Wow.
yes, I did have faith. I I prayed, but it wasn't like I just had to, like it's gonna be like this. I was like, if it's meant to happen, let
Right.
it reveal itself, but let me be whole and true for myself, that somebody can see what my value and my worth is.
Well, and a lot of times I understand when I'm talking to couples, you mentioned something about value and worth. How important is that in individual, Dr. Harris and First Lady Harris? How important is young men and young women understand each of them as individuals have to know their worth? Because sometimes people would get into relationships that devalue them, right? And so, how is it important for you as individuals to know their worth when they're looking and trying to go into a relationship?
I think it's important. I think there's some very basic things that you need to know about your own work. You
Okay.
won't know it all. My
Mhm.
21-year-old self and my 20-year-old self at that time didn't know what I know now. Just did
Okay.
not. There was no way I could have known what I know now about myself. And I look at love and life in the iterative process. And if you look at 5 years spans, that's kind of
Hmm.
how I think people mature and how marriages and relationships matures within 5 years. Every 5 years, you're going to have a new mountain
Hmm.
that you're going to have to figure out how to overcome. You're going to have to figure out how to navigate it. But what's important in that first mountain, if you look at that first relationship mountain,
Okay.
it is so critical to know that God made you for His purpose. God made you in His image.
That's
And
good.
being made in God's image is not marginalized by your body. It's not marginalized by what you can give up and sexuality and all. It's not marginalized by it.
That's
And
good.
too often in that first iteration, we put so much time into the physical. And so
Hmm.
we put a lot of our work in how we look because we think that's what's going to attract that person. That's what's going to give me that meaningful relationship on both ends. One of the things I was so attracted to Frankie about was her confidence.
Okay. Her
Uh,
confidence.
I was in student government. I was a student leader, so the president would invite me to events, and Frankie would join me at those events. And while I was networking, mingling, talking to folks, she was doing her thing. And sometimes I would just watch her because it was cool. It wasn't like I was being smothered. Um, and what women, young girls, young women should know that men are really simple. It doesn't take a lot for us to be wild.
Wow. Men are
What it
simple.
really takes, it was simple. We like for a young lady to be have independence, to
Okay.
have confidence, and to
Okay.
respect. Okay,
That's good.
there are conversations that I learned later that Frankie had about me when she would talk to her girlfriend, and she's like, "Yeah, he's a little country, but I think I can work with him." So I learned that, and I was country, but I was confident, right? Because clothes were not they were never my priorities, and name
Mhm.
brand stuff, that stuff didn't mean anything to me. What meant to
Right.
me was being able to help people, being able to impact people's lives, even when I was in college. So I think knowing your worth is knowing what your worth isn't. Your worth is not in the physical. Your worth is not in how you can, you know, go at somebody word for word and put them in place. That's not your value. That's not
Right.
really saying that this
Yeah.
is the character, personality I am. And a lot of time, all of that stuff really hides a lot of other things that you're dealing with.
And I
Yeah, I
think
like when you
people know
said, go
within the
ahead,
first
Frankie.
6 months.
Say it
I think
again.
people know within the first 6 months if
Okay.
there's going to be a connection.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did not do at that particular age when I met Dr. Harris, at that time, the vibrant, energetic student at Mississippi State, um, I wasn't going to date for a long entire time. I had this goal of maybe about 2 years. I
Okay.
figured somebody knows their interests, if you're there's a connection, and I think many times women make the mistake of dating 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, and then they don't end up in marriage, and
Hmm.
they've given their best years um, to a man that they knew it wasn't going to work.
Oh, wow.
And so then they find themselves subjected to, they don't know who they are,
Mm.
or they've given up so much or they feel damaged. And so I just think people know within the first 6 months, and then if you're pretty serious, I mean, if it doesn't work, you can just cut that off. I mean, there's no need to just be dating just to be
Just to
dating.
be. But I want to go to the point also, Dr. Harris, you mentioned that like every 5 years there's going to be a mountain that you face as a couple. Talk to me about a mountain that you all have faced in your relationship, in just life. Life happens, right, to everybody, to all of us, whether you're married or single. How did you all overcome that particular mountain, or a mountain that you guys have had to endure, right? And talk to the audience about, now you're married, now you're facing this mountain, and now you're facing not alone, but you're facing with someone else. And how do couples get through those difficult moments together, and what needs to do happen to keep them to stay together so the mountain don't divide them?
Yeah, you know, Dr. Kim, I don't want to miscommunicate that journey of knowing yourself. And, Frank and I broke up during that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Understand.
And we got back together. And when we got back together, she gave me an ultimatum. She said, do you see me being the woman that you can marry? Do you see
Okay.
me being the woman that can have your children, raise a family with? And that was the condition of me getting back with her.
Okay.
So even though, and I tell young folks this all the time, sometimes you have to let them go, because
Yes.
I decided I want to go back to my old girlfriend. That's what I decided I want to do.
All right, let's be
Okay.
real. Talk to the people. That's
so
reality.
so so she let me go, and she made a New Year resolution. Now, wasn't that quite? Well, I guess she was. It was not no big different or break. Then she made a New Year's resolution that she's going to get me out of her system and move on with her life, and she's not going to deal with no more fake preachers, right? Because I was preaching to at the time.
Okay.
so
All right.
so I don't want to misrepresent this little
Yeah.
perfect.
The
But
reality.
what I did know was what I missed when I left.
Okay.
And when you go to that place where you thought the grass was greener, and you
Mm-hmm.
come back and you realize that, you know what, I had a good thing, kind of like the prodigal son. Let me figure out how I
Yes.
can go back and get that, right? And so when she gave me that, and her grandmother got involved and got on the phone and said, look, my baby ain't got time to be wasting, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, check
I
out the
said everything I
grandmother.
need to say to get that. So we came back together much stronger. We came back
Yeah.
together with a little more clarity. So, like I said, it takes men a little longer to mature,
To
and I think it's important that women don't react to every immaturity that comes at them, particularly at that particular time.
oh,
I
I
think one
like
of the
that.
first hurdles that we had was, um, I think it was in 1991, maybe 1982, where Frank and I was trying to figure out what we wanted. She was working on a job that she wasn't really happy with. We had gotten married. So it had to be 1993. I wasn't really.
Um,
Okay, yeah. So it was 1995 then.
but we used to do these spiritual
So
retreats.
we'll do a retreat
Just,
every December.
Okay.
And I
with
was
just
set
us.
with just two of us. Because I read this article in the
Okay.
Wall Street Journal about setting goals. And so
Okay.
what we wanted to do was set some goals. And in those goal setting, what she got to do was to know more about me. That service,
Okay.
helping people, being involved in people's lives was just an important part of who I am. And it was
Okay.
causing tension in our marriage because she had all these frats. She saw me always talking to folks, all involved in this, and that was pulling on our relationship. So when we went on this retreat and we just asked a whole bunch of different questions, she found we were able to write our mission statement, and my mission was just service, basically
To
service.
serve. Okay.
She talked about what she wanted, and what she wanted to do was to be a mother, to be a wife, and to have a profession that was respected, right? Because what she had seen growing up with her own father was not that was what's missing in her life. So she
Okay.
saw me as being that person that can be a part of what her aspiration is. So as a result of that particular meeting, we decided to set a goal where she would go back to school and get her
Uh-huh.
master's degree in education, and I would have a goal where my career would be the primary career and provide for our family.
So I just have to get two things out. One, Dr. Harris, you've been in a lot of higher education institutions as administrator, and when that door, that phone call comes to you, hey, come join us over here. Tell us, your faith has to really be really strong because a lot of people don't like to move. They want to stay in one place. But you have done some phenomenal work in higher education. Tell us how your faith and working with your wife, sitting down and talking to her, said, we're going to move again. We're going to go here. Now we're going to go there. And there are a lot of men and women out there that have career moves they have to make. Let's talk to the career man or career woman, and they have a spouse, have children, and you're moving, and how that faith plays into that situation.
Yeah. I think some of it started how we started. We
Okay.
started with me moving. So growing up in Mississippi, both of us grew up in Mississippi, and me choosing to move to the state of Washington, Pullman, Washington, which is about 3,000 miles from where we were born and where we were raised in our lives. So when Frankie made a decision to come out there, she allowed herself to not let geography be what defines family.
Okay.
I never allowed geography to define family. I
Okay.
did. Um, and I'm not quite sure why we were there, but both of us being very extroverted type of people, friendly people, we all always made it a community wherever we were.
Okay.
So we got people in Washington State that we still stay in touch with right now. We talk to them;
Okay.
they're some of Frankie's best girlfriends, etc. When we moved from Washington State to Birmingham, Alabama, it was the result of that first mountain we had was wanting to have kids,
Okay.
and we had two miscarriages, and that was detrimental to us.
Mm.
Um, because we set these goals and these aspirations, so we had to really step back and say, "Okay, God, what are you doing?" We even
Okay.
had some conversation with God about at that time. It's like, there are people who have babies all the time who don't want them. You got a couple who wants baby. We
Yeah.
did the right thing. We did the script that we thought was the script to go to college, get married, get a house, get jobs, blah blah blah, and we're not being successful, and we're serving you. So in time, that was part of God working us to build our faith. So when we had kids, our daughter, the first child, Frankie wanted to get back closer to Mississippi to
Okay.
be with her mother. Every woman wants, when they start having kids, I think they naturally want to connect closer to their parent,
Wow.
their mom especially.
Yes.
So I committed to go back
Okay.
to the South. Um, and and this is how God worked. I sent out 60 applications for jobs
Okay. 60.
across the Southeast, and I
Mm.
got zero response.
Zero response. My
Zero.
goodness.
Then out of the blue, I got a call from a headhunter about an opportunity in Birmingham, and that's the only job I interviewed for, and I got that job.
Mm.
And so
Look at
sometimes
God.
when you step back and just move. Just have the faith that God wants me to keep moving
Okay.
and move. He's going to work out and open that door. And what he's doing, I think, is shaping us. And every move we've made, even when we moved to Chicago, um, and then came to Lipscomb University, where I served as vice president there, and I was the first African American vice president. I served
Wow.
on the board of trustees. All three of our kids graduated from there, the Christian university that aligned so much with what God called me to do in my purpose. And when we
Yes.
went to Morehouse School of Medicine, it really didn't happen that quite way. I had applied for a presidency, and I'd come down to the top two candidates, and I
Uh,
thought I had it. Everybody thought I had this particular job, and I didn't get it. And
okay.
so my president at that time at Lipscomb told me, said, Benny, you got to go through a grieving process. I'm like, a grieving
Wow.
process for a job. And that's exactly what happened. And so I had to go back and lean on God, lean into God, into His purpose for my life. And that's how I ended up in Morehouse School of Medicine. A very purpose driven institution that aligned with my passion, is helping the people that I want to help around health equity, health disparities. My mother died at age 62 of diabetes and all those types of illnesses and congestive heart failure. And this institution dealt with all of that stuff. And it
Wow.
was there where I was really able to clarify my purpose and how God was going to use me in the future. And
It's,
7 years later, I'm here.
and it sounds like every move you made, God had you guys together for His purpose. Every university, every college you worked at, you were moving in the will of God because your faith was in God. And you also said that you lean into Him even during the grieving process when something didn't work out the way you thought was going to work out, whether it be the miscarriage, whether it be, thinking you were going to get this particular job, that you are always went back to your faith and you always leaned into it. You always leaned into each other. My final question is this to both of you all, and I'll let First Lady start with answering the question. What is it in Dr. Harris that continues to cause you when you wake up in the morning and say, "My God, I just love this guy"?
You
Speak
know,
up loud. We want to hear this one. Let the world know. I'm still in love 31 years later through the ups and downs, and that our audience out there, no matter where they are in their marriage now, 5 years, 10 years in, or 30 years, you could still be in love.
um, I can still be in love every day, knowing because I learned through our journey how Benny liked to serve, like to be a mentor, like to help.
Yes.
And no matter what obstacles may have gone our way or during our journey, there was time that we just had to set aside and devote to one another to be supportive and know that each of us will be there at the end of the day, no matter what.
That's
And
good.
so, no matter what, like they say, ride or die, or you know, he was committed, I was committed, and just to see him and his enthusiasm every day as he get up, even coming here to Upstate. I know my steps were ordered, and this is the right time and the right place for us to be here now.
That's
And
good.
so I am just glad to be on this journey um, with him. And like you said, while I was preparing and I'm in college, meeting and working around, it just becomes natural just to support him. It becomes very natural just to support him and
Yes.
be there and know that all of his love is an act of faith and what we all believe in. Um, but to have the experience is a different thing.
That's good. Awesome. Dr. Harris, we'll let you close out with any final words that you want for our audience, as well as tell us why, when you wake up every morning knowing that you're married to this amazing woman of God, what is it that continue to bless you to say, I'm still in love 31 years later, and I know the grass is green on this side. I came back.
Well, there are there are a couple of things I want to say. Even as we made those moves, we
Yep.
had to come to some terms. They weren't just, okay, here's another great opportunity. Frankie had to sit down and say, okay, if you're going to move me and my kids and us
Yeah.
again, here's some things that I need. Here's some things that I don't want to move while the boys are in high school. I want to make sure
Okay.
they graduate. Um, I want to be in a school district that can support. So we had those type of things that we had to figure out. And what makes me look at Frankie every day and say, I can't imagine life without you,
Yeah.
is being able to look at our lives in the rearview mirror. And what
Mm.
I mean by that, life becomes so much clearer when you can look back and reflect on how God brought you through,
Yes.
how God sustained you, and how God allowed you to still be here in spite of, and how she's still here
Yeah.
in spite of my immaturity, in spite of my weaknesses, in spite of the things that I don't do that she likes, and she's still here, in spite of her ability to grow and to mature into the woman that God has called her to be. So it's that rearview mirror that makes you realize that you were purposed to be together, that uh, uh, that your future is even more brighter because of you being here today, and
Yeah.
you see all the great things that God has brought to fruition. That at that time and that marker in life, or that mountain, you probably didn't see it. And so I
Hmm.
think the challenge, and I'm gonna share that this is not a shameless plug here, but this is a
Okay.
book
Go
that I
for
wrote
it. Go for it.
that's called Life Notes,
Life notes.
and
Okay.
in it is a series of reflection and journaling that I did over the last several years. And I
Okay.
did one journal on Frankie, just on her my relationship with her.
No.
And so the whole idea is to look back and remember that God brought you through that. So in
Okay.
this little book, I make myself very vulnerable in talking about uh, when I doubted my faith.
Okay.
Talked about when uh, I had cancer and we had to go through cancer, what that meant. Talked about my mother's death, all these types of things that allows you to be vulnerable and see God in it. So, to your question, what makes me love her even more and more is when I look in the rearview mirror, I see her better than I saw her looking forward. And so that gives me a vision for our future, knowing what our past has been and what our present is.
Yeah, you mentioned looking back in the rearview mirror. I think it's a beautiful analogy because you're looking back and seeing how the hand of God was in you all's life all along. You mentioned the hand of God when you had cancer was there. The hand of God when your mother transitioned, the hand of God when you had, the miscarriages. And so as we sum up today, it's very simple. You all have taught us that life has its highs and lows. At the end of the day, all you have is Bennie and Frankie together and made a decision and a commitment that regardless of the mountain we face, we got each other and God is going to take care of us. Your book is called again. I want to get that because I want to make sure people do. Can they order that somewhere? What can they get that book from? Life
They can
Notes.
order it on Amazon. It's called Life Notes Reflection on Seeing God in Life's Adversities and Triumphs.
Okay.
Life Notes
We will make
by
sure
Dr.
that that gets up for people to go there. Dr. Benny Harris' book, Life Notes, right there on Amazon. We want to support that because one thing he did say was that he was being vulnerable in that book. And it's important that we get that book. So I'm going to encourage you all to go to Amazon and get Life Notes. Again, as we close out, Dr. Harris and First Lady Harris, thank you for just allowing me this opportunity. I've learned so much more about you. I have so much love and respect for you. I just know that this was the beginning of many interviews. But again, thank you so much for your time, and God bless you and God keep you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.